Hey everybody, this is Chris Wilk from Android Authority. We're here at the S4 launch event in New York at Radio City Music Hall. Now what we've got here is the newly announced Samsung Galaxy S4 and the now kind of old hat Samsung Galaxy S3. Now looking at the two, as a step up, basically the Samsung Galaxy S4 is more of everything except for less of what you don't want. For example, it's lighter than the Samsung Galaxy S3 at, I believe, 130 grams compared to the S3's 133 grams. Looking at pluses, this runs Android 4.2.2, whereas the S3 runs 4.1.2. Now, getting into the hardware, we actually went ahead and ran some benchmarks to see how the different processors work, how they hold up to each other. Now, the Samsung Galaxy S4, we're not sure exactly what processor is in here, but we know that it's a Qualcomm processor with an ARM v7 architecture, and it's clocked at 1.9 gigahertz. The Samsung Galaxy S3 came with two different chips depending on where you bought it. You either ended up with a dual-core Snapdragon Plus or a dual-core Exynos. Depending on which chip you had, the Exynos, for example, was clocked at 1.4 gigahertz, and the Snapdragon was clocked at 1.5 gigahertz. Now, looking at the benchmarks, you can see that in terms of performance, the S4 blew the S3 away. Looking at battery life, the S3 had a substantial 2,100 milliamp hour battery, but in the S4, that gets an upgrade as well to 2,600 milliamp hours. Looking at the cameras, the S4 has a 13 megapixel camera up in the rear and a 2 megapixel camera in the front, whereas the S3 had an 8 megapixel camera. Looking at the screens, it's another upgrade in favor of the S4. The S3 had a 720p screen, whereas the S4 has a 1080p screen. With both of them being 5-inch displays, you're looking at a dramatic increase in pixel density for the S4. Looking at features that the S4 has that the S3 doesn't, one of the most impressive is its new Hover Touch feature, which if you simply hover above a gallery or a movie, it brings it up much like pressing the button or hovering on the S Pen did with any S Pen enabled devices. All right, that's about it for that. We're going to keep bringing you coverage from the S4 launch event. We have even more devices to compare for you, and stay tuned.